Hi, I'm Kylie Fremantle, and last video that I posted, I touched on a topic in Chinese medicine that's quite foreign to those of us with more of a Western background. So I thought I'd elaborate a bit more on it and explain exactly what dampness is. So in terms of Chinese medicine, there's often different concepts that we have that have been related back to what's going on in nature around us in our environment. And so one of those is dampness. So there is exogenous damp that's come in from the environment and affected our body's functioning. And there's also endogenous, in which our bodies have actually created this damp. And that's the part that I really want to talk today about, as to how our bodies can generate dampness and what sorts of things we can do to help. So one of the main ways in which we create damp is through the digestive function. And so in Chinese medicine, our digestion is primarily looked after by the spleen and the stomach. Now, what their role is the spleen should pull all the nutrients out of the food that we've eaten so that we can utilise those to create qi and blood. And it also then, the stomach will eliminate the waste product, or those parts of the food that we don't actually need and require. And so that the stomach then generally sends it down through the small intestine to the large intestine and out of the body. So what happens when this function doesn't occur properly? So we can overload our spleen and stomach by eating too much of the wrong type of foods and creating too much pressure on the digestive function. We can also have an innate weakness in the spleen and the stomach, and therefore it's not performing at 100%. And so what happens in these instances is that the stomach and the spleen, instead of the spleen being able to pull out the nutrients and separate really clearly from the waste product, that doesn't occur. And so the spleen starts to bring in some of the waste product because it hasn't really been separated adequately. And this waste product then builds up in our body, and the body has absolutely no use for this. And it turns into what we term as dampness. And so it's this dampness that can cause problems throughout the body, and it will lodge into different areas. So it sort of sinks in and can cause things like body aches. It can also slow down the movement of qi and blood, and it can also then make us feel tired and heavy. It can also cause something like a blanket, I guess, over our mind and our thinking, and it can give us unclear thinking, difficulty concentrating. Now, it just depends on which area of the body is affected. Now, with the spleen and stomach, it does tend to be more digestive-related issues. So you can have bloating, there can be things like diarrhea. Other areas in which the body can be affected by damp is the kidney. And so the kidney is also responsible for fluid metabolism. So what the kidney normally does is that it will, again, cause purification of body fluids. And so it'll get rid of the waste product and put the body fluids back into the system that we need. Sometimes when the kidney is not functioning at its full capacity, we then end up with dampness that are with kidney-related symptoms. So it can be things like urinary tract infections. We can have fluid retention in the lower half of the body. Another organ within the body that does help with fluid metabolism is the lung. And so when the lung is not functioning for whatever reason, be it that it's a bit deficient and doesn't function at its full capacity, or there may be something that's slowing down the function of the lung, when that occurs, we then end up with fluid accumulating within the lung. And so the lung then builds up and we end up with things like phlegm, sinus congestion. We also have another system in the body called the sanjiao. Now, the sanjiao, again, is another unique concept to Chinese medicine, and I'll explain that in another video. It's a bit long-winded. And so what the sanjiao does is that spreads or sends the fluid throughout all the different parts of the body. And so sometimes dysfunction of the sanjiao can also create problems of dampness as well. I hope this helps you to understand a little bit more as to what dampness is and how it applies in terms of our diagnostic procedure in Chinese medicine. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.